Outside the ghetto, Michael, the friend truck driver who was hauling coal, and he approached him. He says, "We'll pay you a lot of money if you can convert your truck into a double-decker, coal on top, and between the coal and the chassis there's room to hide Jewish people. Take them to the border. They'll have a smuggler waiting there." And he listened to Michael, and he did convert his truck into a double-decker. Now it was coal on top. There was room for 10 people to hide. Firemen had hide like sardines. One family was so appreciative that we took them out of the ghetto. They had the money. They said they'll pay for our way to be smuggled. We didn't have any money. And they said with every truckload, there's going to be about 3 truckloads with the family. With every truckload, 2 from our family will be paid by them to go. So the first truckload, 8 other people, and Michael and Lola went first. Why did they go first? Because you couldn't always trust these drivers. They'll take your money, and then they turn you into the police, and they get paid ransom money for Jewish people trying to escape. So they went first to be made up a password. If the driver comes back with the right password, you can trust him. If not, don't. 2 days later, the driver comes back with the right password. Now it was time for another group of 10. 8 from that family and 2 from our family. My father and sister said I and my little brother go next. I remember going into this truck like sardines, laying on his side, pressed one against the other. My little brother was face to face with me. And we leave. An hour out of the city, we're being stopped. Halt! And we see through the cracks of the truck, there are soldiers with rifles. We don't know what they say to the driver because the roar of the engine was so loud. Then the truck started to move. Maybe they don't know about us. They're releasing us. When we look through a crack, we see on the driver's step, there's a soldier with a rifle. Now we hear soldiers walking on top of the coal, back and forth. In fact, there was coal dust filtering through. My little brother's about to sneeze, and I'm holding his nose and his mouth. They were with us for 2 hours. Then the truck stopped, and we were already saying our prayers. They're going to kill us. And suddenly we hear, Dankeschön, Dankeschön. They were just hitchhiking, talking about miracles. 10 Jewish people under their feet for 2 hours, and they don't know. That was not a miracle. So now we come to the border. About an hour later, he lets us out. It was nighttime. He tells us, go up into this forest. About 300 yards, there is a tool shed. Inside the tool shed, there is the smuggler. He's waiting for you. So this is what we did. We got into that, walked up to the tool shed, and sure enough, there was a forest ranger there. He happened to be the smuggler, and he took us to the middle of the forest. He told us to lay down on our stomach, which we did, and he says, "Look up." We look up, you can barely make out soldiers walking back and forth with their dogs and rifles. They knew that at 3 a.m., the soldiers were coming down the hill. They're going to meet fresh soldiers, and they have a little ceremony before the fresh ones go up on the hill again. There's about 5-10 minutes so we can cross the border quietly. So sure enough, after they were out of sight, we shimmied our way out on our stomachs to the barbed wire. And there the forest ranger picked up the barbed wire, told us to cross. He says, "Be careful, because on the other side of the barbed wire, there is a big ravine. And if you're not careful, it can tumble. If you tumble, it's all over. They're going to hear you. Sit down at the edge of the mountain, hold hands, and slide down quietly." Which is exactly what we did. Pitch black, you don't see your head. I'm holding on to it, somebody else, my little brother, and we're sliding down, and we hit a plateau. When we hit a plateau, I asked my little brother, "Are you okay?" It says, "Yes." And somebody taps me on my shoulder. I jump out of my skin. Ooh, in the middle of no place there, nowhere, pitch black. He says, "Beinisch?" Well, nobody called me Beinisch except my immediate family. Otherwise, I was Ben or Benek or Bundy. He says, "I'm your Uncle Belo, your mother's brother." I says, "Uncle Belo, what are you doing here in the middle of nowhere? How did you know?" He says, "When Lola and Michael Fest, 2 days earlier, they contacted them because there's another uncle involved in this. And he took me to my other uncle who rented an apartment, and we had a good night's sleep. He gave us new clothes, and we had to cross the other border into Czechoslovakia. That's too long of a story.
Okay.
Anyway, we crossed border Czechoslovakia to Hungary, and we're now in Budapest. So I'm skipping some of it stuff, but we're now in Budapest. And we meet Michael and Lola. They were waiting for us. We had a very happy reunion. I had to do something that I didn't care for what we're doing, was a little concerned. My uncle takes us to the Hungarian police department, and they put me and my little brother in jail. They closed the door. Then my uncle goes up to the office, signs some papers, and then they came down and they released us to my uncle. We were minors, and he was vouching for us. He was going to be our guardian. Because of this, they now released us to his guardianship, and we were now legal in Hungary. Next day, we go on the train and we travel to Munkacs. Munkacs is where my older sister is waiting, and my grandparents, my uncles, my cousin, my mother's side of the family. And we come to Munkacs, and everybody is a happy reunion. One uncle invites me and my little brother to stay in his house. He was very wealthy. He had a yardage goods store. He would sell yardage for suits and dresses. And above the store, he had a house. And he invited us to stay with him. Life in Hungary was unbelievable, normal. People going to proms and weddings and dances, and like nothing ever happened. I'm waiting for my father and mother that were supposed to come with the next truck.
Yes.
And other 10 people, with other 8 people. So anyway, they don't come. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. A man smuggled out of Poland, and he came to Munkacs. He knew my parents. He told us what happened to them. He says, as they went into this truck, all 10 of them, a Polish farmer saw that. They called the Gestapo or SS, and they pulled them all out of the truck. All 10, plus the driver, 11 people. They took them to the wall, lined them up, and everyone was shot. So, no parents. I know now what happened. Life in Hungary is going on as normal. I tell my uncle, if the Nazis ever come in here, they'll take everything away from you, confiscate everything. It would make a lot of sense if you took some of your valuables, convert them into diamonds, so that people could hide the diamonds on their body. Mm-hmm. He listened to us. One day he comes home with boxes full of shoes, and a pair of shoes for every member of the family. And he tells us, knows that in the heels of the shoes there are diamonds. Use it only in a life-threatening situation. And sure enough, about 2 months later, the Nazis just came into Hungary like they were invited guests. The question is why? Why would Hitler siphon off soldiers from the front to occupy a friendly country when he needed every soldier fighting? To Hitler, at that point, killing Jews was more important than winning the war. There were about 700,000 Jews living in Hungary. And this is what they told us, the Nazis. Germany needs workers. Men and women, able men and women will be working children will be schooled, older people will be cared for. Bring along all your valuables that you can carry and leave everything behind, and anyone found hiding will be shot. He said that the Hungarian believed that. Even I believed that, because Germany needs workers. I didn't know about that camps, or maybe my parents knew. I had no idea of these things. They didn't tell us kids. But within 4 weeks' time, since they occupied Hungary, they're already shuttling Jews to death camps. We don't know that. So it was our turn, Munkaj, to leave to Germany, supposedly. Anyway, we all left. We marched out to the railroad station. There they had a bunch of cattle cars waiting for us. They lined us up, 82 cattle car. And while we were waiting to get in, I see two men with a stretcher walk up to me, and they lay down the stretcher right at my feet. And I look, it's a familiar face, but I couldn't recognize so bloody. My sister Goldie. Goldie, what happened to you? She says, I escaped to the railroad station. It's when as far as the railroad station. She wanted to get on a train or something. A Hungarian gendarme who went to school with her recognized her. He turned her into the SS. Anyway, they beat her to pulp. And now we're ordered to go into these cattle cars. 82 cattle car wouldn't be so bad if it were not for the bundles that everybody cherished, right? Now it was so tight that if somebody wanted to sit down, someone has to stand up. Inside the cattle car, there were 2 buckets of water in the corner. After the water was gone, there were no sanitary facilities, no toilets. So people used those buckets. And after the buckets got filled up, it was overflowing. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it was overflowing. Now we were happy we had bundles to sit up instead of on the floor with the human waste. To tell you what it was like, pressed against each other, that smell. Some people are dying, some people are sick. Oh my God. After third day, we arrive at a place. You see Oświęcim. Oświęcim was, excuse me, Polish for Auschwitz. The train didn't stop there. It just kept going and went into a big yard, and we see a sign that says, Arbeit macht frei. Labor gives you freedom. That's the gates of Auschwitz. But I don't know that. We don't know. And the train stood there for an hour and then started to move again. It was still nighttime. It moved. And it came to Birkenau. Birkenau is part of Auschwitz. Shooting me. Birkenau is where all the killing was done. Comes to Birkenau, they open up the doors of the cattle cars, yelling, "Leave all your belonging where it is. Don't you pick anything up. Women and children to the right, men to the left." I'm holding on to my sister Goldie, my little brother Tuli, and we're being ripped apart. And I was 15 and a half. I decided to go with my uncle and cousin instead of with my sister and my little brother. Why? I saw this was a camp, and I figured if this is a camp, they want you to labor. And if you labor, they're going to feed you better. So that was my only reasoning. Excuse me. That was my only reasoning. And that was a miracle again. Because my sister and my little brother went directly to the gas chambers. If I had gone with them, I would have got the gas chambers. So I don't know what happened to me. This is what I decided. The last minute I let go of my brother. Now we're walking little by little. It was nighttime in the funny place. Ashes are flying all over, and we see chimneys with flames shooting out of them, and these ashes are flying all over the place. The men in front of me were saying, "Oh, those must be smelting factories. This is probably where we will be working." We go forward and we see a doctor with a white glove and white frock standing there looking at us and going right, left, right, left, right, left. And every once in a while it asks somebody a question. When I came close enough to him, he asked the young man, "Kannst du 5 kilometers laufen? Can you run 5 kilometers? And or would you rather go by truck?" He said he'd rather go by truck. He had a bad knee. Poor soul, not realizing that meant certain death. They sent him to the right. But nobody knew. But then, to me, it didn't make sense. Why would he ask such a question? Can you run 5.5 kilometers? I see the barracks are here. I figured he's just testing us to see we're strong enough to work. I tell my uncle, my cousin, whatever he asks you, tell him you're healthy, you can work, you can run, whatever. But just tell him you're healthy. But let me go first, because I spoke a little German. I went first. And he was about to ask me a question. I started to speak to him. I said, 18 Jahre alt, gesund und arbeitsfähig. I'm 18 years old, I'm healthy, and I can work.
Okay.
So he asked me, "Kannst du 5 kilometers laufen? Can you run 5 kilometers?" I said, "Jawohl." He sent me to the left. My uncle and cousin also followed to the left. And we don't know what this place is. We have no idea what these chimneys are, because they're ashes. So now we're being led, my cousin and uncle and I, with a bunch of other people, to a big big um, auditorium light, and they ordered us to get dressed, get out of your shoes, walk over to the barbers, they'll cut your hair, and from there you go into to the showers. I get undressed, but I have diamonds in my shoes, and I'm ordered to get out of my shoes. My uncle who gave me those diamonds and his son got out of their shoes. I wouldn't. And I walk over to the barbers. They cut my hair all over my body. They weren't exactly gentle either. With the beautiful black shoes, naked, and no one said anything to me. The guards are walking back and forth and looking at us. It's like God blinded his eyes. He's actually looking at me. He didn't say a word. I disobeyed an order. You see, if they saw, they could shoot me just to show you disobeyed an order. I went into the shower with the shoes on. I showered, and they gave us other clothes, striped clothes.
Yes.
And I got those. I got into them. They gave us also shoes, wooden soles, and canvas up top. I got into that, and I put my shoes behind my jacket, under my arms, and we're now being let out of the showers to the barracks. And when we arrive at the barracks, the Stubmeltes, the man in charge of the barracks, comes out, and he says to us in a broken German, and I can detect that he's Polish, a Polish inmate. All right? He says to us, "Ha, you Hungarian Jews, you think you're here on vacation? Think again. You see those chimneys, those ashes, those flames? Those are your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, and your sisters. And if you don't behave, this is how you're going to wind up ashes." I couldn't believe my sister and my little brother ashes. I thought he was pulling our legs. And inside the barracks, he told us to get a bunk, and we laid down on an upper bunk, my cousin, my uncle, and I, and we fell asleep just like that. About an hour later, my cousin wakes me up. "Ben, get up, get up." I says, "What?" He says, "Listen." And I hear her chanting, singing or crying. I couldn't make it out. Then he says, "Look, one board from one side of the barrack was missing, and we see a flame, a shooting flame." He says, what's going on?" I says, "I don't know, but I'll find out." Being that I was from Poland originally, I spoke Polish, and I felt that the Stubmeltester was a Polish inmate, so I went to him and I said in Polish, "Przepraszam bardzo, excuse me, sir." He was so happy to see somebody speaking his language that he didn't know what to stop telling me. I just wanted to know what's going on, the flame and what. And he started to tell me what's going. This is out. He says to me, "Ha, you came with the Hungarian Jews. You guys have no idea. 3 months before Hungary was occupied, we in Auschwitz knew that Germans are going to occupy Hungary. Why? They made us dig fiery pits, 2 or 3 fiery pits in Auschwitz, because they knew the Hungarian Jews would come in so fast and furious, they wouldn't have time to send them all to the crematorium. They needed something faster, so now they had these fiery pits. And he tells me that how long it takes to kill a person in the gas chamber. A half hour. But they didn't have a half hour to give them. After 15 minutes, they saw everybody was laying on the ground. They opened the door, aired it out, and the Sonderkommando would come in, pull out these bodies, cut their hair, pull out their gold teeth, and check their body for hidden items, and then put them on gurneys, 5 to a gurney with a rope around, and push them to the crematorium on tracks. But this was too slow of a process. He's telling me all this. This was too slow a process for the Hungarian Jews. They would now throw him into, instead of putting him on gurneys, throw him into a truck. And on top of these half-dead bodies, they would throw live children, because they wouldn't allow the children to go into the gas chamber, but the mother, they take up too much room. They had to push in as many people as possible. So they took the kids and they threw them on top of these dead bodies on the trucks, and they took them to the fiery pits, and they were throwing in these kids live. I couldn't believe it. So I made a mistake. After he told me this, I snuck out. It was still nighttime. I snuck out the barrack, the next barrack, hiding behind the wall, and I saw them throwing in kids live into fiery pits. It was a big mistake, because it won't leave me. Day and night, it's with me. I constantly see those pictures. Okay. For 2 weeks, we were in Auschwitz. We went through absolute hell. What they would do, every morning they would make you stand in a pell, and they would count you. And they go around and look at you naked. You had to stand naked in the morning in a pels. If you looked too skinny, they took you to the crematorium. If they didn't like the way you look at them, they took you to the crematorium. No reason at all. Just to punish us. They pull out people and take them to the crematorium. And everybody knew, because the inmates all knew about the crematoriums and everything that's going on. So we knew what's going to happen to these people they pull out. And this for 2 weeks. Every morning. Selection. After 2 weeks, they put us in trucks and they take us to a labor camp called Durnhau. Durnhau was a rock quarry. As they dynamited the mountain, the boulders would come down. It was our job with sledgehammers to break down to manageable pieces and throw it into mining carts, run it down the track. Down below, they had grinding machines. They grind it into gravel, then push those carts back up. I knew that my uncle is never going to survive this. So I bribed the kitchen chef with my diamonds. I gave him my diamonds to give my uncle a job in the kitchen. He took my diamonds. He gave my uncle a job in the kitchen. It got easier for us because my uncle could eat in the kitchen and he couldn't take anything out. They were searched. But he can share his ration with his son and me. So it got a little easier on us. This rock quarry. And every day when we came home from work, we would have to line up a rows of fives. They would count us and dismiss us. We would go for our rations and go to our barracks. But this one night we came back, they counted us, they counted and they counted. And the commandant comes down. He says to us, I'm going to teach the Schweinhund a lesson they'll never forget. What happened? 3 inmates escaped. And because of this, he orders his henchmen to pull out every 10th person in line to receive 25 lashes. As they're counting every 10th person, I can see my uncle who's in front of me is going to be a 10. So I push him behind me, and I took his place. And they took us number 10s. In the middle of the yard, they brought down hardwood stakes about 2 feet, 2.5 feet long, 1 by 1 inch. And they brought down a sawhorse. You know what a sawhorse is?
I'm not sure.
2 sawhorses, they put a log of wood to cut them. Mm-hmm. The sawhorse is like it. 4 legs with the 2x4 on top.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yes.
Okay. And this is what they ordered us to do. Stand in front of the sawhorse, tiptoe, bend over, but your stomach cannot touch the 2x4. There had to be space for a hand to go between. One man would pull your trousers real tight, and the other one would hit, and you had to count out loud. I swiped, to count out. Mm-hmm. If you miscounted, you start from 1 again. If your heel touches the ground, you start from 1 again. If your stomach touches the 2x4, you start from 1 again. It was almost impossible. I was number 4. There were 3 men ahead of me. The first one goes up. He miscounted. His heel touched the ground. He touches the 2x4 again and again, over and over. Finally, he falls. When he falls, the commandant goes over, kicks him in the face. Get out. He couldn't. It pulls out the revolver and shoots him right in the temple. They push him aside. Now push him aside. His Fräulein, his girlfriend, goes over, gives him a hug and a kiss. like he just performed a heroic act. He killed a man. Number two goes up. Same way. He finally falls. The commandant goes over, kicks him in the face. Get up. He couldn't. Pulls out the revolver, shoots him. Had two dead bodies. Number three. He was a little younger. And he too touches the 2x4. Its heel touched the ground over and over. He yells out, "Please have mercy on me. Don't kill me." The commandant says then, "Stand up, come over here and face me." The poor guy stands up, makes 2 steps, and his knees gave out from under him. He falls. Commandant goes over, kicks him in the face, "Get up." Couldn't. Shoots him. I have 3 dead bodies in front of me, and Ben Lesser is next in line. All I can say is I remember going up to that sawhorse, tiptoeing, bending over, and I said to myself, "Okay, Ben, this is it. You want to live another half hour, you better do exactly what you're told." So there's room for a hand to go over between the 2x4 and me. I tiptoe. One man is holding my trousers, pulling it real tight. The other one starts to hit, and I start to yell out, "I'm dry." And every time he hits me, I feel my flesh is being torn apart into pieces. It was so sharp, and he didn't hit as hard as the commandant wanted him to hit. So the commandant took one stake and broke it over his head. He says, "This is how I want you to full force." He was hitting me, and I breathe. My flesh is being opened up. I yell, "Angstweiter." I finally, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, I made it. You can hear a pin drop at that camp. No one believed that anyone could make it. The man who was pulling my trousers tells me in Yiddish, "Walk over and thank the commandant." So I stand up, blood is running down my legs, walk over to him, salute him, say, "Danke schön, Herr Kommandant. Thank you very much." It's almost a joke. I mean, it sounds like a joke now, but believe me, the pain was unbelievable. For weeks, I couldn't lay on my back. I had to lay on my stomach because of my wells. My daughter Gail remembers seeing wells on my body. I don't show it anymore. But she remembers that after I got married. So it was barely marks, but there was marks, you can tell. Anyway, I couldn't lay on my back. I had to lay on my stomach. One night we heard cannon fire. The front was closing in. That morning we report for work. There's a loudspeaker saying, "The camp, no one is going to work today. The camp is being evacuated. Line up in rows of 5 and walk out. That's called the Death March. Walk out. I'm holding on to my cousin. His father, my uncle, was in the kitchen. We couldn't say goodbye to him. We never saw him again. We don't know what happened. And we're being marched out. That's called the Death March. If you did not keep up with them, they shoot you. And all day long you heard pop, pop, pop. They kept shooting people. I wrote in my book that I marched about 3 or 4 weeks. Time didn't mean anything anymore. We were like zombies, marching. And we had to keep up with them. If you slow down, they shout you. Days, nights, weeks, months, we don't know. So in my book, I wrote down 3 or 4 weeks I was marching. A German professor read my book in Germany. He says, I loved your book. Now he'd like to translate it to German. We gave him permission. However, he says that to Gail. However, he says, your father made 2 mistakes in his book. What? He says that he marched in the Death March 3 or 4 weeks. Mr. Lesser marched 7 weeks. From Durnau to Buchenwald is 460 kilometers, and he knows exactly what happened. 7 weeks. I have no idea how we survived this. And very few of us survived this, because most everybody was shot. We arrived at Buchenwald. They count us. They tell us to go into this barrack. They're going to feed you. You're going to take a shower. They give you fresh clothes. And tomorrow morning, you have to be back here 7 a.m. because Buchenwald is being evacuated also. Which is what we did. And I had some food, and I went into the showers. Would you believe that there is a picture? Gail has a picture of me in the showers with the man naked there in the shower. Picture of that in Buchenwald. Don't ask me how this picture came about. I was a producer in Germany who made my movie once. He found that picture. It must have been taken by German,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, next morning, we line up, they count us, and they march us out. About 300 yards from the camp, we see cattle cars lined out. They line us up, 80 to a cattle car. I tell my cousin, I'm going to push you up because he was weaker. He even tried to be shot. On the march, he says, Ben, I can't take it anymore. He says, let me sit down and everyone will pass, they'll shoot me. I can't take it anymore. And I kept telling him, no, Isaac was his name. Isaac, I'll help you. And I don't know how I took the strength. And anyway, we are now together. And they told us to go into these cattle cars I push Osric out and I says, find a place against the wall where he can rest our back against the wall. I remember going to Auschwitz in a train like that, and people all around you, it's terrible. So he did find a place to stand there, and he found a place, was holding a place for me. And I went in. We had two good places. An hour later, everybody was in, they closed the gate. 2 hours later, they opened up the gate again, and they threw in 80 loaves of bread. A loaf of bread for each person. Picture this. Those people who were next to the door were grabbing 3 or 4 or 5 breads. I was with my cousin against the wall. We had nothing. We don't know where we're going, for how long. We have to have a bread. So I climb over the sitting inmates to get to the door and wrestle out the bread from someone who had several of them. I'm climbing on the inmates, and one inmate had a pocket knife. He stabs me right here. I feel a stab. My mouth is filling up with blood. But I can't stop. I have to get a bread. So I keep climbing. This guy had a few breads. I pulled one away. He kicks me. I put it in my pocket, back pocket, and I'm coming back to my cousin. He says, Ben, what's happening to you? Bleeding. I put my finger here and went right on my tongue. To this day, do you still see a mark here?
I do.
That used to be here, but now that I filled up, it's over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that was about 75 or 80 years old, that mark. Anyway, talk about miracles. I tore up a piece of my pants and I put it around my head. Filthy, dirty, not to get an infection. With all of that going on, that's another miracle. And that's not the only miracle. My God, this one bread between the two of us, I rationed it every night the size of half an egg for him, half an egg for me. And it lasted us 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, no more bread. But the train is going for another week. Everybody around me is dead. They're all dying. And I and my cousin are just barely alive. We arrived to Dachau. They open up the door. They said, anyone who can walk out, walk over the tracks into the gate of Dachau. My cousin and I and 2 other people, 4 of us walked out of the 80. The rest of them were all dead. Only 4 of us walk out from that cattle car. And the night before it rained, so there was a little water in the tracks. And we were so dry. I remember when told us to get out, we saw water. We fell on the floor, licking the water. They saw that, so they kicked us away. Go in. We come into the yard of Dachau. We see a mountain full of bodies. They ran out of coal to burn the crematorium. So they lined up these bodies, and they put my cousin and I into a barrack right next to these bodies. On the floor, no bunk, nothing on the floor. Lucky for us, some of the inmates gave us some water that they shared with us. 1 day, 2 days, the second night we hear, Bafrayan, liberation, Americans. I said to my cousin, let's go out and see what's going on. So holding each other, we came out and we see inmates are crawling on their hands and knees and kissing the boots from the American GIs. They liberated us. We're free, whatever that meant, but we're free. 2 GIs walk up to me and to my cousin. One of them had a can of Spam. He opens it up. He hands it to me. And it smelled so good. And we were so hungry. He made a mistake. He ate some of it. Both of us came down with dysentery. My cousin dies in my arm the night of liberation. He went along all along with me, even though he wanted to die. Maybe he felt that now that I'm free, he can die. I don't know. But in my arms, and I talked to him. I wouldn't let him go. And they saw that. So they came to pull him away. And I follow. My knees gave out, and I fall. They pushed me against the wall. About 2 hours later, a man walks up to me, nicely dressed, and he asked me in a broken German, he says, how many languages do I speak? So I told him, he says, Polish. I'm a Polish Jesuit priest. I came here with nuns and doctors from Paris. We were opening up a field hospital, and I'm going to take you there. Well, he picked me up like I was a sack of bones. I don't know, I may have weighed 30 or 40 pounds. I was 16 and a half years old at the time. He carries me to the infirmary, and he told me something I'll never forget. On the way, he says to me in Polish, he says, what they did to you is so inhumane. The only crime you committed, you were born to Jewish parents. What an injustice. However, he says, don't you ever abandon your noble religion. To hear that from a Jesuit priest in 1945 was very unusual. You can hear it today from an American priest. I never forgot it. He took me to an infirmary, and nun comes out. They brought a what do you call that? The bed, a cot.
Cut.
And they laid me down. It had a white sheet on it, and laid me down the white sheet. She took my vitals, and I pass out. I pass out. 2.5 months later, I wake up in St. Ottilian in a monastery in Bavaria.
Okay. In 2009, he started the Secor Holocaust Remembrance Foundation. So, to date, as of right now, Could you tell me what you think the most important accomplishment you've made through the foundation?
Well, I think my most important accomplishment through the foundation was in Germany. And where thousands of high school kids in the area of Germany received not my book, but a short version of my book about the Holocaust itself. This was a big accomplishment. And in Germany, I spoke in many schools, so I got an award for that.
Yes.
In Germany. But I think I shout out is a place where you can shout out against hatred, for love thy neighbors, or whatever, against anti-Semitism. You choose your words, and that shout out will remain for generations to come. And if you wish to add your photograph with the shout out, your photograph with the shout out will come out. It's going to be for generations.
Yes.
That's something that's unheard of. And we're looking for 6 million shout outs.
Yes.
To compensate for the 6 million silenced voices. My other big accomplishment is the curriculum. ZHC, Zachor Holocaust Curriculum. I put this on my website purposely because I wanted teachers to teach about the Holocaust, the truth about the Holocaust. And thousands of teachers worldwide are using it because I think I'm the only survivor who ever did something like that. And I also had to shout out and that's but ZRC shout out and
You have the curriculum, the shout out, and the pins. Of course, the pins that both Ben and myself
are displaying. We're looking to give out 6 million pins.
Yes.
And also curriculum shout out.
And you have an AI of yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, I have an AI from the time that nobody ever heard of AI. That was going back a few years of now. An AI where students can ask me questions and I answer. And in fact, they can take me home on their telephone, take me to their house and ask me questions, and I'll answer. It's unheard of. It's because I wanted them to know, even after I'm gone, that there was a Holocaust. I was a Holocaust survivor, and I wanted them to know the truth. So we did a lot of these things in Zachor Foundation, and I'm still speaking a lot to schools and colleges, in fact on Zoom all over the world. So I'm the only one, in fact, only survivor that ever spoke for an hour and a half at UNICEF United Nation, United Nation, where millions of people heard me all over the world. They never give anyone more than 15 minutes or a half hour to speak. They gave me an hour and a half. So I feel we have accomplished a lot, but we have so much more to do, because the anti-Semitism is happening, and it's sad. It's sad. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. We all had a lesson what the Nazis did to the Jewish people. Anti-Semitism will only bring hatred. And it could cause, who knows, another Holocaust somewhere in the world. The hatred has to stop. We do everything possible to see that it's minimized. We speak, we educate, and I think that education is a big, it's very important to keep this world from acquiring amnesia.
Yes. I have particular questions about what you were speaking about. For one, the curriculum that you mentioned, is it your goal to have each and every one of the schools and universities using these? Meaning, are you looking at younger children and touching them, or is this collectively all grade levels?
Collectively all over. My goal is that everyone teaches out of it. It's the only curriculum written by a Holocaust survivor. That's firsthand. It shouldn't be taken lightly.
Is there, if I were to say to you, because I know in states such as Florida and Missouri and Iowa, they've been removing Holocaust books and they have been taking education out of their curriculum. What would you say to address that?
I didn't understand.
Meaning the states of Florida, Missouri, and Iowa. There was a time where they were saying, we are going to remove books about the Holocaust. We're going to not allow you to talk about the Holocaust. So how would you address that?
They're anti-Semites. How can you remove something that's history? How can you teach history and skip the Holocaust? How can you teach history about World War II and skip the Holocaust?
Correct.
It was a major part of history. 6 million of us were killed. You can't just dismiss it. In fact, most states in the United States are teaching the Holocaust. There are a few holdouts. It's unheard of. Eventually, this is one of my goals. Eventually, they will all start teaching it. I was very much responsible in the fact that they're teaching the Holocaust in Nevada. This is the first year that they're teaching the Holocaust. I went out to the governor's office and we had long discussions about this. And I wasn't the only one, but they listened to me.
Okay, speaking of remembrances, one of the biggest things that you have done back in 2011 was to write your book, Living a Life That Matters. So, if I were to ask you of all the things in that book that represent Ben Lesser or something you want people to remember about Ben Lesser, what would that be?
Well, was the fact that I came to America with nothing, and I made a beautiful life for myself and my family. That to me is an accomplishment. And if you read my book, you'll find out how I did it. That's something that I think every young person should know this and what it takes to reach that point. It's all in my book.
Throughout all of the time, as you've said, you've talked to classes of all different types, spending rooms, speaking to everyone. Do you find that there is one message that you get across to the people in your audience where they can help us to not forget? What is it that you leave with the audience that they need to remember?
They need to stop the hatred. Hitler and the Nazis did not start with killing. It all started with hate. So look what hatred can do to ordinary people. The Germans were not all born monsters, but hatred, propaganda, and this is what turned them into. So eventually, the hater is gonna be consumed by his own hate.
Yes, that's correct.
So all I can tell you is have stop. It's simple. There is no place for hate. Love and hate are both contagious. So choose love.
That's perfect. I have some survivor relative questions. Over the course of time, there have been a number of television series, there have been independent films that have been made that depict the stories of survivors. So, if I were to ask you, Ben, do you feel that they're accurate? Are they correctly represented on camera, do you feel?
Yes,
You do.
and I do.
Okay.
Um, if it's a if it's a story about the Holocaust, or if it's a what do you call those? Um, anyway, yes, I feel they're correct because I watch them and I see what's going on in those films. They're mostly correct. The problem is that the wrong people are watching it. I'm the wrong person to watch it.
Really?
Children, school children should watch it. Maybe they'll stop the hatred. I know what happened in the Holocaust, but the rest of the world has to learn anything they figured they don't know about the Holocaust. Watch those films.
I agree. I have a question about a project. If anyone has seen The Commandment's Shadow, audiences witnessed during the course of this film a survivor who actually meets the son of a Nazi who actually murdered over 1 million Jews. So my question is, off screen, do you believe that unity and forgiveness is possible in today's society?
Yes, it's possible, but personally, I hate the perpetrators of the Holocaust. Most of them are gone by now, okay? They're not alive anymore. I can never forgive them, but the rest of the world, the hatred has to stop. I mean, the grandson of the biggest killer in Auschwitz, Rudolf Höss, who was over 1 million people who was involved in killing. His grandson and I were close friends. Yeah, we used to go to schools in Germany and talk about tolerance and turning things around. He would come here, I would go there. We were friends for a long time until something happened lately that I broke off the friendship.
I understand. I have two final questions for you. For one, it's been told multiple times that most survivors suffer from things like depression, PTSD, anxiety, chronic pain, inability to sleep, etc. So if I were to ask you, how have you handled or how traumatic has it been living with all of the side effects of this?
It's traumatic. I have nightmares. I wake up sometimes finding myself in the situations that I remember. But life has to go on. I won't allow that to slow me down. Life has to go on. I have a wonderful family. I had a wonderful marriage. 72 years marital bliss, you can say. So, Gina, I hope you hear that. She was a wonderful wife. So, life has to go on. You make the best of it. You can't live in the past. I won't allow it to slow me down.
By the way, I think she hears you. I'm certain that Jean hears you. If I were to ask you, A, what can anyone watching this interview do to help the foundation or yourself?
Anyone watching this interview, I have to say it, the foundation needs money. It's a 501c corporation. That means every dollar that we receive is tax deductible. I am not a museum or place like that who has organizations and they support it.
Yes.
It's just Ben Lesser. I started Zahor Holocaust Remembrance Foundation, and what I do, believe me, is very, very important. Where do you think all the money is coming from? 99% from Ben Lesser. There's a limit.
Yes.
And I'm asking you, please help stop me from being unable to continue. I need to continue. The Zahor Foundation is important for Judaism all over the world.
In closing, if I were to ask you, are you able to see number 41212 as a hero today? What would that answer be?
I don't think I'm a hero. I don't think so. I don't do it for fame or anything like that. I do things because I feel it's the right thing to do. The world needs to be reminded they're trying to forget. And at least the Zahor Foundation, Zahor Holocaust Remembrance Foundation, is going to exist. My daughter, my granddaughter, they all vowed they're going to continue. So I feel good about it. It's I know the Zahor Foundation is not going to die with me. It's going to continue. And especially Jewish people have to realize they have to keep it going.
So this is what I like to say in closing, in case any of you forgot his name, the Living Miracle. And yes, I would call him a walking hero as well. This is Ben Lesser. The name of the organization is the Zachor Holocaust Remembrance Foundation. The name of his book is Living a Life That Matters. On top of the pins, on top of everything else we've talked about today, at the very end of this segment, I will list all of the accompanying social media. I will give you a way and a means to be able to donate. And I'm asking everyone to participate in helping Ben to keep the message going of love, not hate, in addition to which I will be posting up probably in December of this year my personal Christmas gift to Ben Lesser, which is, of course, I'm orchestrating a very, very large and very elaborate fundraiser in February in New York City, specifically to benefit the Zachor Holocaust Remembrance Foundation. So, Ben Lesser, thank you so much for all of this time and opening your home and your heart to me. I appreciate it.
I thank you too. And you should mention the book is Living a Life That Matters, from Nazi Nightmare to American Dream.
Yes.
It's something every person should read. And they're going to learn so much out of this book. You know that.
Yes.
They're going to learn how a young man who was injured, brain damage, came to America with nothing and made a beautiful life for himself and for his family, how it could be done, and the importance of Zachor Foundation to continue. We need all the help we can get.
I'll reiterate that. We need all the help we can get.